I'm going to move us on to our next presenter now, which is Catherine Thomas, and Catherine is from the National Botanic Gardens of Wales. So, Catherine, over to you.
Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you, Catherine. You're just a little bit quiet.
Okay, is that any better if I hold the mic?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, okay.
Okay, right, there we go. Right, well, thanks for joining us today on this fine Wednesday afternoon. My name is Catherine Thomas, and I'm the project officer for the project you see in front of you here. So we'll be talking about Biophilic Wales, which is a project based at the National Botanic Garden of Wales. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, I'm going to tell you about the partnership, what this term biophilia means, and especially what it means in today's context as we're going through quite challenging times at the moment, and then what the project will be doing, which is split up into 3 separate work programmes. So we are a 3-year NROL funded project, and that's Welsh Government money, and we're working in partnership with the National Botanic Garden of Wales, Natural Resources Wales, the Swansea Bay University Health Board, and Swansea University. And our overall aim is to increase well-being and protect and enhance our native wildlife in Wales. So, biophilia, what does this term mean? So there's a definition on the screen there. And never before has such a sense of calm and mindfulness that you get from being nature been more important than it is right now. Put simply, people need nature. If you think about holidays and spare time, you might spend time on the countryside, on the coast, your local park, and you're drawn to these places. You might not even know why you do it, but they are good for you. They're good for your soul. They're good for your well-being. And on the other side of the coin, of course, nature needs us as well. From all the experts that are giving talks at this conference to school children, nurturing wildlife on their doorstep, all making a difference. Oh, the irony though, dramatic pause. It's really interesting that as we start to realise just what nature can do, the positive effects on our well-being, we're also starting to realise the damage we've done. During lockdown, everybody was planting. You couldn't get compost for love nor money. It was all sold out. A lot of people I know were finding new walks in local countryside and green spaces. And for those who are lucky enough to have a garden, people spending so much more time in their garden, and it really helped in these difficult times. But we're also seeing it regularly in the news, state of nature reports and the work of David Attenborough and Greta Thunberg. There's a lot of bad news stories out there as well, I'm afraid. But Biophilic Wales is doing its bit to make Wales a happier nation and make our habitats more biodiverse. And we're doing this with work split into 3 programmes. So we have Inspiring Spaces, Grasslands for Life, and Plants for People. So I'm going to be talking about Inspiring Spaces, which is all to do with our work on the NHS site, the Swansea Bay University Health Board site. We will be improving the green infrastructure, which will then have a knock-on effect to improving the well-being of people that use these spaces. And that could be anybody from staff, patients, visitors, and the local community. And then I'm going to hand over to Laura Jones, not necessarily in that order though, who's going to talk about our Grasslands for Life, where we're turning the way we look at our grasslands on its head. So we're looking at the soil. Instead of looking at what's on the surface, we're looking a bit deeper with DNA metabarcoding. Laura will tell you all about that. It's very scientific. And then plants for people, which in some respects, I suppose, is a much more simpler concept, but it's lovely in its simplicity. Where we're collecting seeds from rare plants so these species can be preserved to sustain healthy communities in the future. and we do this by seed banking and bulking up. And I'll hand over to Elliot for that one. But for now, I'll tell you a little bit about inspiring spaces. So benefiting staff, patients and visitors, like I said, all over the Swansea Bay area. It's quite a big area. So you have a map there, shows you 40 different sites, hospitals, clinics, health centres and learning disability residences. All very different sites, some with lots of green space around, some for nature. I don't know if anybody knows Kevin Coy Hospital, huge amounts of space around there, lots of nice woodland. Whereas some places, they don't even have enough space for you to park, never mind a space for a planter, and we might just be able to fit in a bird box, I don't know. So we've prioritised all these sites to get the most benefit from our interventions, so reaching as many people as we possibly can, and where possible, providing some green infrastructure where there was none before. So the inspiring spaces targets, so we've got something to aim for here with trees being planted, hedgerows. I was actually planting some hedges at Morrison Hospital yesterday with a group of volunteers, which was great fun. We're also working with the Orchard Project. They have a project manager in Swansea now, so we're working with them. Grassland biodiversity, we're improving these places by changing the management basically, mowing regimes, no-mow areas, just less mowing basically. Adding native plants that support our pollinators as well, bird boxes and bug hotels, relaxation areas. This is a really important one for me because as I was going around the site, I would see staff, NHS staff, sat outside on bollards and street furniture because they had nowhere else to go. And these guys are working so hard at the moment under tremendous stress. Whether you're a surgeon or whether you're a cleaner, it makes a difference. They're having, they've got a lot on their shoulders at the moment. So to be able to provide a green space where people can relax and benefit from nature is really, really important. Interpretation as well, explaining the benefits of the work we're doing, especially with the no-mow regimes, and not everybody appreciates perhaps what it's all about, and some people might say, oh, it looks a bit untidy, so we've got some work to do there as well. And better connecting our sites to the health board sites to neighbouring green corridors. Events, it would be nice to be running a few events, hopefully, maybe next year we'll get a lot more done. Anything from like nature ID sessions to improving people's well-being, yoga, art, like wild art, things like that. And then the volunteering side of it, which is a huge part of it's part of the whole project actually, and all 3 work programs use like volunteers. But with the health board sites and inspiring spaces, we have big groups of volunteers here, and those that are regular volunteers will be able to sign up for the Biophilic Whale Skills Development Award, which is, so there's training there, and it fits in really nicely with the Future Generations Act to help provide a happier, healthier, more prosperous Wales. Measuring the success of the inspiring spaces work. Obviously, we'll survey everything beforehand and after to show the differences we've made in nature conservation and people's well-being. We're very conscious that there's lots of work out there, and everybody generally knows that being in nature is good for us. But we're looking to collect data which actually scientifically proves it. And obviously on the nature conservation side of things, which Laura will talk about in a bit, it's fascinating the different techniques you can use to measure the changes we're having. And finally, one last bit from me. I might have mentioned coronavirus once or twice during this talk. So how do you manage a project like this during a global pandemic? Laura and Elliot have done an amazing job, and obviously with the Grasslands for Life and Plants for People, a lot of their work is outside in the middle of nowhere, basically, in a nature reserve on the top side of a hill. So thankfully that's not been too greatly affected, although some of their lab work has been delayed slightly. So they've caught up really well. But the inspiring spaces as volunteering at its heart, has suffered a bit. Obviously, with lockdowns, we've had no volunteers, or we've had volunteers that can only work in a particular area because they can't cross the borders, all that sort of thing. So we had a bit of a brainstorming session, and I have to give credit to Elliot here, where it is due. We came up with a home volunteering opportunity called Join Our Growing Team, which really made the most of a bad situation, to be honest. So people signed up, and we sent out packets of seeds, 6 different species, with instructions on how to grow them. Very simple, obviously, and we encourage them to use peat-free compost, and you could use any containers at home to plant them in, yogurt pots, milk bottles. It didn't matter. It didn't have to be fancy, and it didn't have to cost people anything. And people got really excited about it, and it was a really nice way. One, it fulfilled that need to be out in nature. Like I say, you couldn't get compost at the big first lockdown, could you? Because everybody was planting. But also, it was a chance for people to say thank you to NHS workers, because we made it clear right from the start, we're going to grow these plants at home, and then when it's safe, we will bring the plants onto the health board site. So people really liked the 2 opportunities there, and especially to say thank you to the NHS. Yeah, and it went rather well. So it was a blooming success, and had over 1,600 volunteers sign up and grow plants for the NHS. Some of those plants have been returned to us now already. We collected some at the Botanic Garden of Wales, and others we're hoping we'll be able to get the people that planted them out onto site, onto the NHS sites themselves, so they can actually see the whole process, and they'll be able to plant the plants themselves. So that is about it for me and Inspiring Spaces. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Elliot, and he can tell you a bit more about plants.
Thanks, Catherine. So I'll talk you through the Plants for People part of the Untitled Wales project. And this is all about celebrating Wales' natural heritage by protecting our most threatened plants for the people of Wales. So we've got a few different parts of the Plants for the People work package. The main part is the seed banking. So in 2018, we established the National Seed Bank of Wales at the Botanic Gardens, and we've been basically filling that with the most threatened plants in Wales over the last couple of years. Another part of the project is providing seed, Welsh provenance seed of grassland species for restoration and creation projects. We want to contribute to in-situ and ex-situ conservation. I want to work with community of volunteer groups with the health board and beyond to grow Wales's threatened plants. So the National Seed Bank of Wales. So recent global estimates that up to 40% of plant species are threatened with extinction, which obviously is a very terrifying statistic, nearly half. And one way of protecting those plants is through seed banking. So seed banking stores the seeds long term. It's sort of an insurance policy, and you can use those seeds at a later date to avert plant extinctions. I expect most of you have heard of Kew's Millennium Seed Bank, which has collected seeds from nearly all the UK flora. So they've pretty much got seeds from every species in the country, basically. But 75% of those are not from Welsh provenance populations. So that's quite an important point, is that they might have every seeds from every species, but they might not be from Welsh sources. And our project is looking to increase the number of Welsh provenance seeds that are safely seed banked. That's to safeguard their genetic diversity. So seeds from Scotland or Norfolk aren't going to be the same as seeds from Wales, even if they're the same species. And it also means that if there's any restoration projects in Wales or any projects looking to save a species, that at least they can get Welsh provenance seeds. So Dr. Kevin McGinn from the Growing the Future project attended a 3-week seed conservation course at the Millennium Seed Bank. And since then, he's been working to increase the capacity of the seed bank. So we've got a lot of new equipment. There's things like freezers, sieves for cleaning seeds, loads of stuff that you need to get in place before you can start collecting lots of different species. So the species we've collected so far, bearing in mind that it's only been a couple of years, and last summer was basically unavailable for fieldwork. We've collected quite a lot so far already. So we did a collection in the Great Orme with the joint collection with Millennium Seed Bank. So with Seth and Jenny from the Millennium Seed Bank to the Great Orme, and we collected wild Cotoneaster, the endemic Cotoneaster, to the Great Orme. It's not found anywhere else in, I think it was down to 6 different bushes a few years ago. So we collected some seeds from that. And I went with Kevin McGinn in 2019 to collect Goldilocks Aster for the Great Orme as well. This year it was a bit of a truncated fieldwork season, so we weren't really able to do that much until September. But even in a month, we collected some really important species. So this is corky fruited water dropwort, which is found on the Gwent levels. And Kevin went to collect red hemp nettle from I think it was on a shingle beach in the Gower. So these are species that are really, really on their last legs in terms of population wise. So it's vital we collected them, because the red hemp nettles on a shingle beach on the Gower, which any particularly bad storm or something could really, really impact. And as well as the threatened species, we're also collecting seeds from sort of the key grassland species. So these are things that are common or declining, but haven't been collected from Welsh populations before. At the moment, we've got up to over 40 different species. A lot of them collected from the Waun Reserve at the National Botanic Garden of Wales, including this great butterfly orchid. But this year we're looking to expand that and go different parts of Wales, so from like west to east, north to south, really start collecting a lot of different populations. As a sort of adjunct to our collection, we've also been working this year on collecting wildflower seeds to make it available to the public. So we've been selling our Saving Pollinators wildflower seeds. So we have been brush harvesting and collecting individual species which are available to buy from the National Botanic Garden of Wales website. And that's because there's really very few sources of Welsh provenance seed. So I think there's Windrush in Pembrokeshire, there's Celtic wildflowers and Welsh organic wildflowers that sell plug plants. But outside of that, it's very, very difficult to get wildflower seeds that are from Wales. So we've been working this year to just provide a bit of choice, really. So we've been selling a wildflower mix from the Waun Reserve and individual species such as yellow rattle, and they've been really popular, been really selling well, which shows there's a lot of market for Welsh wildflower seeds. We also work for In-situ Conservation. So our collection of Goldilocks Aster, which me and Kevin McGinn collected in September last year, has some of those seeds have been sent to Cumbria. The Cumbrian population of Goldilocks Aster went extinct, so they asked us for seeds as the closest seed source to repopulate the area, which we were really thrilled about. Another project we've worked on is Meadowclaria, Salvia protensis. In 2016, I think it went extinct in the single Monmouthshire population, which is the only population in Wales. We helped to reintroduce the species there, and currently working on a new flora which we published after Christmas. Ex-situ Conservation. So the National Botanic Garden of Wales is obviously we're lucky that we've got the space and time to be able to do Ex-situ Conservation. So we've got the Conserving Welsh Plant Zone, which many of our sea collection species you can find in the Welsh Plant Zone. We've got the British Whitebeam Grove, and we've also got the capacity to bulk up some of the seed stocks. So some of the collections we've made, we can bulk them up, increase the number of seeds we've got, and then we can distribute those to conservation projects. During lockdown, it was sort of fairly difficult to think of ways we could engage with the project, but we were producing monthly wildflower guides, which proved really popular. I think they were the most downloaded and visited things on the National Garden website during the lockdown, which was really nice. Not that they couldn't visit, so it was a good way to reach a lot of people. And the future for Plants for People is obviously keep collecting the seeds. This year especially, or 2021, this is going to be a big push on this. But also we want to be able to connect different parts of the Biophilic Wales project. We want to be able to use our collections to engage the public, so we're going to try and grow some of the threatened species on our health board sites that Catherine was talking about. And we also want to expand the amount and diversity of Welsh provenance seed available to the public. So that's it from Plants for People.
Hello, so I'm Laura Jones. I work at the National Botanic Garden as Science Officer, and for the Biophilic Wales project, I contribute to the Grasslands for Life bit of it, which I'm going to give a brief overview now. So the Grasslands for Life, like Catherine mentioned, the idea behind that and the kind of aim of that is using DNA techniques to monitor grasslands within Wales. And to give a little bit of context to that work, so the Botanic Garden, a lot of our research output is related to using DNA for different things. We've been DNA barcoding since 2008, roughly, and using DNA to investigate sort of rare Welsh plants. Myself, I completed my PhD at the Botanic Garden looking at honey. So identifying the plants in the honey using DNA. And the same kind of principles work here, except instead of honey, we're using soil. So collecting soil from these grasslands to not only just identify plants, but other measures of biodiversity as well. So animals, invertebrates, things like that, fungi and microbial communities which are present in the environmental DNA within the soil. So the fieldwork for that we completed last winter. So we went out and collected from 82 transects. We did 20-meter soil sampling transects, and those were mostly focused on national nature reserve sites throughout Wales, so north to south. And we did a winter collection and a summer collection, so we can compare between what sort of biodiversity we can detect. One of the things that with the DNA is that hopefully we can detect more biodiversity than you would with traditional monitoring techniques. With vegetation surveys, there may be things present earlier in the season that are missed. Things like fungi are another example where unless you can see the fruiting bodies, it's often hard to know if they're maybe present in the soil. So that's one of the things that we're keen to look at. So we did the National Nature Reserve sites with kind of the key grassland communities throughout Wales, but we also did colliery spoil sites as well. We went to 10 different colliery spoil sites where these kind of brownfield areas are holding biodiversity within them, and we were also interested in kind of comparing that with more traditionally known kind of sites of conservation. And then to kind of tie into the Inspiring Spaces work, we also sampled from health board sites. So these are often very mown grasslands, but we were keen to get a kind of baseline measure of maybe the biodiversity that's held within those sites. So we can look at the interventions potentially, see how we might be improving biodiversity on those sites by the work that Catherine's doing with her volunteers. In the summer as well, we completed vegetation survey, so we've got that to compare to, and we've also got the MVC sort of community info historically that's been recorded on a lot of the nature reserve sites to compare to too. And what I would say about this as well, with Catherine mentioning, you know, how volunteers are such an important part of the scheme, and upskilling volunteers as well, and letting people kind of develop new skills. This is kind of a key aspect for our student researchers and our undergraduate placement students to join in on, so they can gain field skills, plant ID skills, and field sampling methods as well. So we were really lucky that we had students joined us in the winter sampling. We were a bit more of a restricted team in the summer, but a couple of volunteers joined us on a couple of the plots and things, and that was really helpful and really good for them to develop skills, especially at the moment where it's even more difficult to get access to fieldwork. So to go a little bit more into kind of the DNA barcoding sort of technique. So once we've extracted the DNA and done all of our amplification and things, we'll have a lot of sequences present that we don't know the identification on. So the really key thing of DNA metabarcoding is having a reference library that you can compare to, and we have that for the plants. So with the reference library, the National Botanic Garden was the first, mid-Wales, the first country in the world to DNA barcode all of its native flora. So we got all of the plants with RBCL and ITS2 and MAC-K, another marker, all barcoded and attached to sort of herbarium specimens, so we know these are really reliable identifications. For the other groups, we're not the only ones sort of DNA barcoding. It's a kind of worldwide endeavour by lots of different research groups across the globe. But all of that data, including ours, gets uploaded to a central repository called Barcode of Life, so researchers everywhere can access it. So we'll be using that to look at the other groups. And some of the kind of initial questions that we're probably going to look at, we're really keen to sort of characterize that biodiversity. So looking at just the levels of biodiversity, what taxa we can identify, what taxa we can find within those sites, and then comparing it with the site data that we have. We also did separate soil collections to look at different kind of soil metrics and send those away for analysis. And also then the traditional kind of MVC designations for those sites as well. And then how can we potentially use this practically as an additional monitoring technique for these grasslands? What more information does it provide us with? How practical it is to do, and how cost effective it is to have as another monitoring method. And then continuing that, can we inform then future management of these grasslands? Are there particular things that we can kind of connect with these metrics to be able to sort of offer advice and on the ground management for those sites, which will be interesting also to compare with like the health board things as well. So yeah, it's a very brief overview of the sort of this aspect. We were really lucky to be able to do all of the collections, especially this summer. So I'm really pleased that we've got all of these soil samples, and yeah, we'll be progressing through the lab work now and getting the results through, hopefully. So thanks very much for listening to our talk, and I think we're going to have a question and answer session now.